So welcome everyone to our International Women's Day special Aclass. My name is Alex. I'm a partner manager at Acast, which basically means I help our partners and podcasters launch and grow their shows. So as I just said, I'm here just to quickly tell you a little bit about Acast before passing you over to these wonderful people. So for those of you who might not be so familiar with Acast, we are the world's biggest podcast company, tooting our horn a little bit there, but it's true. We host 40,000 podcasts and have more than 350 million listens every month, which I just think is completely mind-boggling. And we work with publishers such as The Guardian and the FT, and also independent creators such as Catherine Ryan and Peter Crouch. So I think the key thing is that our founding philosophy, which we really, really care about, is that we believe that all podcasters of all sizes everywhere should be empowered to find their audience and make money from their craft and on their own terms. So we believe in the open ecosystem, which essentially means that we're platform agnostic and you can find our podcasts anywhere and everywhere. So we're here today for an A-class, which is our strand of masterclasses aimed at underrepresented groups. We really aim to demystify the world of podcasting in these. So whether that's making a podcast or in today's case, getting a career in podcasting, we're just hoping to break down some of the barriers to entry and show you the different routes into podcasting. So with that said, I'm going to pass you over to Sophie, who'll be leading a conversation with our amazing guests about their experiences in podcasting careers. After that, we'll have freelance producer Pilar interview the hilarious sisters and podcast duo Anna and Mandi and Vakili from Sisters in the City. So yeah, that's it. Over to you, Soph.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, very excited for this day topic I'm very passionate about. So hopefully we'll give you some good insights, good tips. So yeah, today we have Cheryl Brumley, head of audio at the FT, who manages a team who produce and grow and monetize podcasts. Katie Baxter, who is a senior producer and sound engineer at Stak, one of the top UK podcast networks. They produce Football Ramble, Jackmate's Happy Hour, and many other podcasts. And me, I'm Acast's Global Content Partnerships Director. So I oversee a group of people like Alex who help the top podcasts in the world to grow and monetize their podcasts. I think we're all podcast geeks. I definitely am. So to start off, Cheryl and Katie, I was wondering if you could tell me a bit about what is your role and also how did you get it? How did you get into podcasting? So maybe if we start with Katie.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm a producer at Stak, as Sophie said. My role includes overseeing shows, editing shows, running recording sessions, planning shows, and I got into the role basically through being a massive student radio nerd. I wish it was cooler than that, but it's not. I absolutely love student radio, and I did a production internship with Capital whilst I was at uni, and a music programming internship with Channel 4, which kind of set me on a path that I definitely wanted to work in media and audio. And then in my final year of uni, Stak got in touch with me, and I took the job as soon as I graduated. And yeah, it's been amazing so far. Yeah, basically student radio nerd is what got me here, but I didn't study production.
So can you tell me the difference between a sound designer, a podcast editor, and all those kind of different terms around production? Because I think people get a bit confused about all these different types of things you can be in podcasting.
Yeah, so I think the term producer kind of unhelpfully varies from project to project.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, and certainly from company to company, because as a producer on some shows, you'll essentially be a researcher. As a producer on other shows, you might be doing a lot of sound design work and doing a lot of editing in that way. There's a lot of different ways you can be a producer, which I think is why it's actually a role that's open to a lot of people, because it requires a wide range of skill sets depending on what you want to do.
Great, thank you. And Cheryl, same question to you. What is your job? What do you do? And how did you get it?
Yeah, thanks, Sophie. My job, as you said, is head of audio at the Financial Times, and I sort of sit across the entire FT's audio strategy. And what that really means is that I sit across our content plans for our podcast. We have many different strands to do with business, economics, finance, current affairs. And I also am launching a narrative series upcoming. So I have a wonderful team of producers that kind of work with me on each of those podcast strands. And I sort of, it's such a varied role. I'm in a lot of sort of meetings about our kind of upcoming coverage, especially now with Ukraine. I also am in meetings with production partners, specifically on this narrative series that we're launching. And yeah, it's such a wonderful job to have. And I kind of got it by accident. Like I kind of tell people my job didn't really exist 10 years ago. So I didn't kind of grow up thinking I'll be the head of audio at a news publisher. So I didn't even think I could do something as technical as audio. So I just knew I wanted to be a journalist, and I had a lot of odd jobs, and then decided one day I'm going to get into journalism, and then got an internship at the BBC World Service on a show that I really liked. It's called The Forum there. And the first day of my internship, I sort of sat in the studio. I remember it was Studio 6 on their old offices on the Strand. And as soon as they like press record and that like red recording button went on, I just thought, I love this. And you know, you had people talking in front of the mic, and I just thought, this is it. I've been trying to find that thing, and this was it. I definitely got the bug there. And it wasn't an easy road, because at that point the BBC were kind of letting a lot of people go, and sort of kind of where they're at right now with kind of shrinking rather than growing. But I worked at a university doing some research, but I also pitched to them that I would do podcasts. So I was just kind of really focused on making things and teaching myself editing programs. So I pitched to them that I would do magazine style podcasts. Then I went freelance, and then I funded that by also consulting with different academics and kind of community organizations to do podcasts for them. And then after freelancing and doing stories for American outlets as well, I got a job at The Economist as their first audio producer. And I launched a daily there many years later. And then I kind of got to the FT. So it wasn't a straight and narrow path. It was I sort of moved around a lot to lots of different things, but I just kept trying to like do that next thing in audio and kind of teach myself the sort of audio skills that I kind of needed to move up.
Super interesting, thank you. And it's so interesting that neither of you actually did a kind of audio production degree. Actually, when I came into podcasting, I didn't go down the production route because I thought I needed that. So that's really interesting to me, although do not regret the decision that I made working at the brilliant Acast. Yeah, my career journey was also, I mean, mine was even more kind of all over the place. I spent my 20s trying to work out what I wanted to do, what I was good at. I worked in journalism, I worked in the NHS, I worked with charities, and then eventually just kind of realized, like, I love podcasts. I just love them so much. It's what I consume. And at the time there weren't many jobs out there, so I signed up to all the podcast newsletters. So Pod News wasn't around at the time. That's a really good one. Hot Pod, Sounds Profitable is another really good one. I'd recommend signing up to that today, because they've got this topic covered in today's newsletter. But I think that really helped me. So I came to Acast. Now I basically just stalked the Acast jobs page, found this job, and thought, I have to get it. And I applied, and I had all this different random experience, nothing to do with podcasts. But when I went in, because I've been reading these newsletters, I knew so much about the podcasting industry without ever having worked in it. So I definitely say, if you want to get a job in this area, then really just sign up to those newsletters. It just feeds you with information. Okay, so I wanted to kind of, yes, it's a great idea. We can post the links. I wanted to kind of give people an idea of the different types of roles in podcasting. So I know we're all in the content area. At Acast, there's just so many different ways you could be working in podcasting. So whether you're in the sales team and helping to sell these podcasts and help podcasters make, you know, a profitable business, PR, marketing, product, data insights, customer success. There are so many different ways you can work in podcasting without being in the production side. So Katie and Cheryl, did you guys think about any other different areas? And can you tell me a bit about the different roles that you interact with in your day-to-day? Maybe start with Cheryl this time.
Yeah, thanks, Sophie. I definitely interact with a lot of roles that are kind of peripheral to podcasts, but like extremely important to what we do. And then one of those is my commercial counterpart, Alistair Mackey, who sits across kind of our ad sales and monetization strategies. And he also finds us sponsors for our podcasts that kind of fund the journalism that we do. So he's super, super important. And also I work with commercial colleagues, other commercial colleagues on and marketing our podcasts, letting our subscribers and doing other sort of targeted marketing campaigns for our podcast. I work with like podcast development consultants too, who help figure out not just like a marketing plan, but also kind of paid strategies and ways for other people to kind of hear your podcast. So they'll kind of negotiate sort of cross, and also Acast as well do this for us.
Thank you for the mention.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we work across a sort of broad range of, and I interact with a broad range of different roles. And it's just so key to what we do. And yes, I work on content, but all of these other roles kind of give me the kind of funding to do the kind of necessary work that we do, but also to let other people know, because there's so many podcasts out there, as you know. It's not just enough to kind of make a really good podcast. You kind of need to have really good sort of marketing strategies. So thank you, Acast.
You're welcome. Thank you, Etty. Katie?
Yeah, I mean, Stak being a production company, most of the people I work with day to day are other producers. And then similar to Cheryl, my other interactions would be largely with people at Acast. I deal a lot with people on the sales team, making branded content and stuff. And we've also got people at Stak that do like a bit more of the businessy side of things. But for me, I'm mostly around production people and talent. And then you guys take care of the rest, I guess.
That's what we do. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of give people some practical tips for if they're, applying for jobs in podcasting. They want to get into podcasting. So I was wondering if you could tell me a bit about, Cheryl, when you're hiring, what are you looking for? And what would be your tips, particularly for women looking to get into the podcasting industry? And Katie, if you were to be hiring, what would you be looking for? And what would be your tips, having come into the industry a bit more recently, to women wanting to get into the industry? So Katie, we'll start with you this time.
As you know, I can't speak massively as a hirer myself, but I know that one of the sort of policies that Stak always pushes in their words, like they look for good eggs. I think podcasting, similar to radio or other audio industries, it's quite a small industry, and I think being a nice open person actually probably gets you quite a long way. And I think people skills for producers are really important as well. So I think that's like a great place to start. And then I think the rest of it should hopefully take care of itself. If you've got a passion for podcasting, similar to you, Sophie, if you're the kind of person who kind of is reading all the podcast newsletters, engages with podcast content, I think the things like the technical skills are the things that you can learn. And it's having the passion and the people skills and that kind of thing that's going to get you in those rooms in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. We have a policy of hiring nice people. It's really, really important, especially if you're working in a partnerships team. Cheryl, what about you? You've hired a fair few people in your time into podcasting roles.
Well, I would say, I mean, exactly as sort of Katie said, we do look for good eggs too, and it is a small industry. I mean, there'll be people that I've spoken to years ago and maybe the timing wasn't right, or, but I did really like them. And then you just see their name again and you're like, oh, maybe we can work together this time. And it's just people kind of come back into your lives in this industry in ways that you don't kind of anticipate. So yeah, first of all, I think people skills are super important, especially as a producer when you'll be interviewing a lot of people and working with talent. If I can make one appeal, I'll make several, but one appeal, please write a cover letter, and that shows that you really understand the role and the organization that you're applying to. Cover letters are really important, and I don't see enough of them. So do write a cover letter that really kind of underscores how your skills kind of match the requirements that hirer is looking for. And then also I would say I've drafted a lot of job specs too. And I think there's always kind of a dual purpose. When you're drafting a job spec as a hiring manager, you're kind of thinking, oh, have I got everything in there? Oh, right, there's just so much that we want this person to do. And then when you look at it again, it looks really intimidating because you've got like 20 different bullet points. And so I think for me as a hiring manager, I'm always kind of mindful that for women and other underrepresented groups that a job spec like that can be very intimidating. So I would just say you might have imposter syndrome, as a lot of us do often at different times in our careers, but I would just apply if it feels right. If something feels right to you about this job and you really want it, I would just apply to it and just do a really good application that kind of speaks to all the different requirements that they're looking for, and just recognize that you have that imposter syndrome, but just kind of keep moving forward and just take a shot on that job and that role. And if you really kind of put everything into making a really good application, you might get a call or an email for an interview.
Yeah, I completely agree, that just apply thing. Like, please do that. The roles I've hired for, it's massively changing, but it has been overwhelmingly men applying for these roles. And I'd love to see more and more women applying. And oh yes, everyone in our partnerships team, they come from completely different backgrounds. A lot of them, granted, media-esque, but might be marketing or PR or events. You know, me, I worked at a charity. Like, there are so many different backgrounds in the partnerships team. So I definitely think, and again, most people, I would say, or not most people, a lot of people haven't had any podcast experience, and it's just that they have that knowledge. So definitely don't be put off by that. Definitely apply if you see a role and you know it's right for you. Honestly, I think the cover letter I wrote for Acast was brilliant, just because I knew what that job was and I knew that I wanted it and I knew I was right for it, even though I knew I didn't have the right experience. So please do just keep putting yourself forward. And the cover letter, absolutely, it's, you know, I'm not that interested in someone's CV. I'm much more interested in their cover letter. Okay, so a quick question about podcasting industry in general. Why did you want to get into the podcasting industry, and what do you like about it? Do you like it? Is it a good industry? I personally love it. A lot of people say that it's kind of similar to YouTube in the early stages. It still feels like a strong community. Everyone's very supportive. People working in the industry really love podcasts, and that's great to see. It's great to be working in an industry where everything's on the up. I graduated into the recession, worked in magazines, and at the time, you know, print was struggling more. So I love that about the industry. But what about you guys? Cheryl, what do you love about the industry, and why did you want to get into it?
I think the same. Yeah, there's just quite a lot of energy around it, and
yeah.
I think someone told me very early on that conversations can change lives, and that's kind of what we do. We feature conversations and stories that could be really kind of life-changing. And like, unlike anywhere else on the internet, I can't think of a place where people kind of, as a listener and an audience, kind of give their attention and their energy and their time to kind of really deep, meaningful conversations and really kind of interesting stories. Because it's just like, in terms of attention economy, I just don't know another place like it. And so I love that. I love that about what the industry that I work in.
Yeah, totally agree. Katie?
Yeah, I think for me, like, as I mentioned earlier, I kind of came from a student radio background, and podcasting wasn't really something that I thought I would be able to do, or I'd even really considered. But a level of kind of like trust and responsibility that I can get from podcasting is so much more than I think I ever would have had in radio. It's so much less kind of regimented, like you've got X amount of seconds you can speak for, and then we've got to do this. It's so much freer than that. It's a lot more creative. I love the team I get to work with at Stak. And yeah, as you guys have both said, I think it's such an exciting time to be in a growing industry like this. And yeah, I love it, basically.
That's great. It's such a good, I wish that was our segue into the next panel, but I have one more question, which is where you see the industry going and the opportunities you see coming up for future jobs. So for me, I'm really interested. In the last week alone, there have been announcements from YouTube, TikTok and Twitter about podcasting. So I see a lot of opportunity coming from those platforms. So, you know, keep an eye out on those platforms if you're interested in jobs. But Katie and Cheryl, what do you guys think? Where do you think the next jobs are coming from? Cheryl, you go first. Sorry,
Okay.
I got to nominate someone.
I mean, like I said, my job didn't exist 10 years ago, maybe even 8 years ago. So it's like really hard to say, but like you said, there's just so much going on in this space that there is, you know, like I said, with podcasts, it's kind of like a refuge for like an internet era where we're just sort of flooded with information. So I think there will always be roles for people who love stories and kind of like deep, meaningful conversations. And so like, I just love that. I just love knowing that there's all this energy around this space. There's a lot of people kind of getting into it and a lot of companies trying to figure out what they want to do within the audio space, that there is going to be opportunity for people and they're really fulfilling jobs.
Yeah, I think, oh, sorry, I jumped the gun there. I think podcasting is heading in the direction of, I mean, it's already well on its way to becoming like a mainstream media form following TV, film, all these other things. And I think right now is where we're building the sort of formations of the industry. And I think it's really encouraging to see people getting opportunities regardless of gender or ethnicity or sexuality, any of these things, and it's becoming a media form that is hopefully quite a level playing field, which I think a lot of other media forms don't necessarily have or are only just coming up to speed with that point. So I'm really excited to see what jobs and what opportunities come up in the future. I think podcasting is going in the right direction.
I agree. Thank you both. I hope that has proved useful, given you some insight. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm really happy always to chat to any woman who wants to get into podcasting, go for a coffee, have a virtual meet, anything like that. Please do that. Okay, now we're going to pass over to Anna and Mandi and Pilar, who are going to talk about how podcasting helps women to find their authentic voice. Honestly, there are no three women in the industry better to speak about this. I'm very excited. I'm going to mute, turn off my screen and listen. Thank you. Bye.
Cool. Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Oh my gosh, what a great panel that was to kind of kickstart everything. My name is Pilar. I'm a podcast producer. How I got started in the industry, I used to actually work in social media. So I was doing social media for TV shows, mainly reality shows actually. And then one of the girls I worked with used to work in radio. So she got called over to the BBC, back to the BBC, because that's where she was before, to work on a reality TV podcast. She took me with her. And that was like 3 years ago now. So that was the start of my podcasting journey. I absolutely love it here. Since then, I've gone on to produce other podcasts. I currently produce the Press podcast on BBC Sounds and One Extra. I worked on Die Salon, and I've also launched my own podcast called No Approval Podcast, which I produce and host. And now let's also get an intro from probably the most unfiltered sisters, besties, business partners that we've ever seen. So hello, Anna and Mandi, welcome.
Hi, Pilar, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, ladies?
We're good. We're good. So I was a pharmacist before being on Love Island, came off Love Island, and then I was introduced into the world of podcasting with my first podcast, which was with Yewande and Amber, and it was called Reality Check. It was so much fun, and I knew straight away that this was for me. Like, I've never felt more comfortable on a platform than like podcasting. But then my dream was always to work with my sister, because there's no better conversations than the ones we have. I remember when you were on that podcast, you were like, oh, I want to do it with you though, Mandy. I don't want to do it with you. And here we are. And yeah, we launched Sisters in the City this year, not long ago. Literally, it's been like just under 2 months. And it's me and Mandy's just unfiltered conversations about a range of topics.
Ladies, so before we take it back to the beginning, is there anybody in podcasting you would like to shout out? Who do you think kind of really represents the theme of International Women's Day this year, which is breaking the bias?
I really like, honestly, the girls that I relate to a lot, like, is the girls' bathroom, because I like the fact that they're two girls that are like having conversations like us. They're also very unfiltered, and I just love to see women in podcasting that, like, you know, they can just talk about anything that they want and feel free to talk about it. Yeah, we're so new. We're kind of new to this podcasting thing. It's literally only been a year, so it's only been recently that we started to like discover new podcasts as well. But I did listen to Fern Cotton's one as well. I was like, it's like a happy place or something. Yeah, I was down at one point and it did really cheer me up. So shout out to her as well.
Mate, what good choices. I love both of those. I really like the girls' bathroom as well, and their YouTube. It's like a whole world. The person I would shout out is Leanne Ali. She's got a podcast called Coiled, where she shares the history and stories on Black hair, which is something that is not really spoken about. I think it was like the first podcast of its kind. So that's who I would shout out. But let's take it back to the beginning, because we were introduced to you both through Love Island. You know, when summer comes, we all eat, sleep, breathe Love Island. And I want to ask, like, how different is the process of making a TV show to making a podcast? And also, like, I've done social media for the same show you were on, and I know that you film for 24 hours and it's cut down to like an hour show. The editing process is different. So how different has that process been for you, Anna?
So I think TV couldn't be more different to podcasting, even if it tried. Like, it honestly is so different. For TV, they are, like you said, filming you all day. They edit it the way they want to edit it. They'll take bits of your day that they want to portray you as, and it could be your happy moments, your sad moments, your funny moments. And I feel like they kind of, with TV, they have to make a show out of it, don't they? So they will decide on what kind of character they want you to be in that show from the beginning. Whereas with podcasting, you're just completely yourself. You're talking about what you want freely. There is no construction to it. It's just completely, like, that's why I love it, because I can just show my real self. I feel like coming off Love Island, when I look back, and it didn't portray me, the real me. And now that I have a chance to actually show people who I actually am and what I like to talk about and all these things. So yeah, it couldn't be more different.
Mandi, how about you? Because you watched Anna on the show. Are you seeing a difference in terms of like the content she's putting out on the podcast to what you watched when you were watching her on Love Island?
Yeah, I think with TV shows, like Anna said, they're edited. They basically, that is parts of that show. That is Anna. Anna is feisty. Anna is, a confident girl. She speaks her mind, but it's obviously exaggerated version of her. Whereas like her podcast is her completely unscripted. And I think a massive thing as well is like on TV shows or anything visual, even Instagram or platforms like that, like, you're being seen. And as a woman, there's always like this massive pressure on like how you look when you're being seen. Like, women always are self-conscious about how do I look, and that kind of like stops you as well from being completely yourself. Whereas podcast is such a safe place. Like, you just don't really give a damn about how you look. You're in your tracksuits, you're recording, and you can be completely raw and yourself.
Since the show, like, you've both grown a massive social media following. And Mandi, let's not forget, right? Everyone found out about you when you had Anna's back. You were on Instagram stories. Like, anyone who came for Anna, you were going for them. Has the kind of like reaction to when you speak your mind on social media, sometimes there can be backlash and stuff. How has that affected the kind of content that you're putting out on the podcast? Do you second guess what you're saying, or is this a completely unfiltered zone?
I think we've come to realize that the people that love us and follow us, they like us for the way we are, the fact that we are unfiltered, and like the fact that she came on there, started having a go about the whole Jordan thing, and she had my back. It's quite like a natural reaction, but because of this industry, these kind of reactions are seen as like so wrong. But it's like, if not, she's my sister, she was like going crazy. It's quite natural. Most people would feel like that towards their siblings. I just feel like these people that are really like loved on social media, they just portray this like, I'm so innocent and I'm so perfect and I'm so kind and I'm so nice and I'm like this Mother Teresa. It's just BS, really. Like, everyone's got flaws. Everyone's got that part of them where like they can be a bit mean. Everyone's got that. And I think, you know what, looking back on what I did, would I do it now? Probably not. But my podcast is like the only place I probably would do it, because it's my podcast, is where I can be completely myself. Whereas Instagram, it's just, I don't know. It can go a bit crazy on there. Like, you suddenly go viral and get trolled for like a month.
So this is like access all areas to you guys as sisters.
Yeah, exactly. The conversations that we have are like the conversations we could have in our bedroom, like literally just me and her. Yeah, and it's completely unscripted. That's how crazy it is. It's completely freestyled. Like, just, yeah.
All right, well, talk to me about the fact that it's unscripted, because your podcast has covered like so many different topics. you guys have talked about, you've done episodes on food, a foodgasm episode about fake friends, friendships, sex, being Persian women in the public industry. How do you choose what topics to speak about, and how involved are you guys in terms of making of the podcast and choosing the topics?
Completely, like fully involved. We choose topics, we choose, I mean, it's not scripted, so we just have a topic and we just go with it, literally. Yeah, we record for so long and then it's just chopped up to our best bits, basically. Yeah. We obviously got help from people who've got like ideas and just like, you know, motivate us and sitting around laughing at our jokes. That just gives us that buzz. But it's just fully us. And I think as women, we're like 30, 31, we're Middle Eastern, we've grown up in London with Persian parents. Like, there's a lot there to talk about. You know, we have them pressures of being Middle Eastern. We've got the pressures that all women have. We've got the age, the pressure, like to settle down. And like, to be honest, just our conversations are just banter. And I just think that that's also the main thing. Is just like, I feel like people in general, like not even on the podcast, when they're around us, they enjoy our conversation. So that's why we thought, why not just share it so everyone can just have a laugh, have a good time, maybe relate to some of our topics and just feel good. Yeah, we're like laughing at our own problems, basically. Throughout the whole I just feel like as women, you like, you have to be sweet, but not too sweet and not too nice, because basically you're boring and you're gonna get walked all over. You have to be independent and successful, but not too much because you're gonna emasculate a man. You have to be sexy, but not too sexy. You're gonna be slutty, and you can't be too innocent because that's also boring. It's like there's no winning as a woman. Be glamorous, but don't be too glamorous because that's when you're gonna be fake. Be natural. It's like women have to be everything, you know, like, and it's our way of basically going on that podcast and being like, you know, middle fingers up to the world and to women that are putting these like pressures on women, men that are putting these pressures on women, and saying, look, we're just gonna be us and we are everything. Yeah. Sometimes we're slutty and sometimes we're innocent. Sometimes we're weak and we're crying, and sometimes we're like rowdy, strong and feisty. We don't have to fit in any box. Yeah.
Well, listen, as they say, get you a girl that can do both, right?
Exactly.
So how much, for example, like, how do you know your fans are gonna relate to a certain topic? Are you basing it on the comments they give you, or the messages, the DMs they send you?
I think, I don't like, we're not thinking about it. Yeah, we don't really think about, are they going to like? We just hope that the people that follow us will relate and like us, because they must be following us for a reason. And anyone that starts listening to it and they're a new listener or a new, I don't like the word fan, but a new someone that supports us, then that's even better. But I mean, it's just it's nice, because I think we have a large Middle Eastern following. Since coming off Love Island, a lot of Middle Eastern girls can relate to me, so a lot of the things that we talk about they probably relate to. But you know, there's so many other cultures and ethnicities that we don't even know about, right? That have like the same kind of culture, same kind of like you know, I don't know, pressures or strict parents. Like, there's so many other countries that we just don't know about. We just know about like the Middle East, but there's like, we discovered so many things recently. I found out like Italian men are very protective, you know, and the men and their families are so possessive. So like, I think so many more people can relate to it than we even realize. Yeah, you know, and I just think, and that's the beauty of it, though, is that like more people can get to know us. People that didn't maybe had a judgment on us, and they listen to it and they're like, oh my god, it's really like, it's interesting. I just think as well, in life, you just have to completely be yourself, and if that makes you successful in your venture, then it does. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. You just have to be completely yourself.
And you have to back yourself as well.
100%, yeah. 100%, or back each other. As women, we should support each other and back each other. That's one thing that I really believe. Because if we don't stick together, then what the hell?
So
and women.
Oh, sorry, go on, Mandi.
I just feel like women like don't as well. I feel like a lot of women, they're competing for attention of a man, or you know, competing with each other, and it's just annoying.
So talk to me about like working with each other. How is that like? Because I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys even share a bank account, right? Is that still the case today?
Yes. Yeah. She's gone.
How do you manage to be sisters, besties, and like colleagues, business partners? How does that relationship work?
I know everyone thinks it's so strange, you know, and Mandi, honestly, even my boyfriend, I was like, do you actually share a bank account? The other night, he was like, I was like, yeah, I do, like, because we share everything but men and shoes, like, literally, shoes, because I've got way bigger feet, but we've always shared everything since we were so little, so I don't I don't remember any other way. But I'm not gonna lie, I feel like people are blessed with so many different things in their life, and then I just see it as like, this is our blessing. You know, the connection we have, this kind of like unusual, almost like surreal, supernatural sibling connection that we have is our kind of little blessing in life that we've been given, because it's not really normal, is it? And we do argue.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we argue. They don't last though, they're like 2 minutes.
Do you argue on the podcast, or do you argue about topics?
We actually have been recording before, like there has been times when we're recording and then we start getting into arguments mid podcast, and like the producers there, like maybe the two producers are there, and maybe someone from our agency, and then they'll be like guys, break it up. Can we like break it up? Stop arguing. Yeah, but you know what? That would be interesting, is to like actually maybe one day get them to put it out there, like on little arguments. That's a good like little idea. But most of the time, it's like Anna's basically telling me off for like what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like, Mandi, you took it too far there. Like you took it too far. Like no, we're gonna get cancelled.
So okay, in terms of taking it too far, who does go in the most when it comes to like being 100% transparent on the podcast?
I think we are both 100% transparent. Whereas with Mandi, it's like I can be offensive. Like, no, she just doesn't think sometimes before she talks. Do you know what I mean? That's the only difference. Like she doesn't think before she talks. But I mean, we're both, I think, 100% transparent on there. There's things that are going to come out in episodes that I have not even spoken about ever since I've even left Love Island. Yeah, things like surgery that I've avoided. There's all sorts. Like honestly, I don't want to give it away, but like, I'm just literally let it all out. So did I. Wow. I actually like. I think I can't even listen back to it because I just die inside. After recorded, it's like, put it out there and don't tell me about it.
Well, it's funny because like when you're saying you're sharing this stuff that you haven't shared about before, I want to just touch on the point that you said about being Middle Eastern women. For people that haven't listened to the podcast, like what kind of things do you touch on, and have you decided to like be open about, even though it might be frowned upon in society, for example, or within the culture? And how do you think that can inspire other women who might be from like underrepresented backgrounds to just be like truthful about what they're going through in their culture?
I feel like women in the Middle Eastern background, it's almost like they're born into like a servitude industry. It's like you serve your man, you serve your kids, you serve your parents, you serve society, you serve your reputation, you're serving everyone and everything but yourself. And it's like, that's basically what we talk about. We want you guys, like, want our listeners to feel like they need to serve themselves more and love themselves and look after themselves and do what they want, what makes them happy. Yeah. And there's no timeline. There's no, oh, by this age you should have achieved this, or you should be at this point in your life. It's just doing what you want to do and not caring about society. There's an even bigger pressure on, I think, Middle Eastern women to be married by this age, more than normal, have kids, to be a good woman, as they say, not to be sleeping around or doing this. And we kind of just embrace sex. We love sex. We talk about sex all the time. We've got loads of we've got the whole agony art and sex episode, which is so good, where we answer questions about sex. But with women in the Middle Eastern background, it's like when you ask them, are you a virgin? It's like a massive question mark, Whereas with men, that question mark isn't there. That's not there. It will be embarrassing for a man to even say he is. But the more women we get talking about it freely and openly, the more other women will feel like they can as well. And it's like almost like breaking glass ceilings for us, because we're opening that door so other women can say, hey, you know what, me too. Yeah, we have loads of sex, we don't cook, we're not married, we don't have kids, we're still partying every weekend, we're living our best life. Our 30s.
I love that, because so many people think that like women expire when they hit 30. And it's just like, where are you getting that narrative from? So
no, we're in our prime and we've got young boyfriends, we're living our best life.
On the boyfriends thing, actually, you mentioned your boyfriends in the episodes sometimes, or sometimes you talk about like your friendships and stuff. How do people in your life react when they listen to the podcast?
Oh my God, literally the other day, I was in one of my podcasts, I was bitching about this guy that we know, that like he's this, he's that, like he was a bit of a snake. And then the other day he WhatsApped me with a bit of my podcast, and he said savage. I was and so much that has come out of that podcast. I've had so many people, but you know what? I'm so surprised that so many men are coming up to me, like young, good looking like groups of guys coming up to me in bars like, oh my God, we love your podcast, we love. I'm like, okay, I thought it was gonna be like girls listening to this. It's like loads of guys.
I love that though.
I have more guys coming up to me than girls. I feel like they want an insight into the mind of a woman.
So they're like secretly listening to it when their girlfriends are out.
Yeah. Exactly. What is she really thinking?
So would you say like this has helped you grow a better connection with your kind of like followers, your listeners?
100%.
Because they're getting to know us more better. Like Instagram, I'm not good at Instagram at all. I'm actually shit at it. Like I can't show all you see on my Instagram is me doing shots on the weekend and smoking shisha. Like I don't speak on my stories. I get cringed out by doing it. And like all you see is my sexy poses. So I feel like you don't get to know me on my Instagram at all.
It just doesn't feel natural as well. You can speak on Instagram, but it doesn't feel that natural picking up a screen, talking to the screen. Like when we're talking to each other on a podcast, it's just a whole nother element of like a natural environment there.
Yeah.
Oh, ladies, we absolutely love to see us. We love to see it. Can you give us like a sneak peek on what's to come in the next few episodes?
Okay, so our next episode is relationship expectations, which I love because our expectations are too high. That's probably why we haven't settled down. And also the one after that is about beauty and surgery. So there's a lot of little secrets revealed in not this week's and next week's episode, where we just what everybody wants to know, basically.
All right, so you're spilling the full tea.
Yeah.
We can't wait to hear it. Thank you so much, Anna and Mandi, for joining me for this panel. I'm now gonna hand it back.
Bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my God, guys, thank you so much. This has been amazing. I have literally loved listening to all these conversations. I'm very glad I've not been on camera because I have literally been a nodding dog the entire time and really laughing. So yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you for everyone who spoke today, and also everyone who's attended. It's been great to have such meaningful conversations about women in podcasting. To wrap up, I just want to point you to our Aclass Essentials Toolkit. So we've designed this amazing free online resource, which just gives you all the knowledge that you need to create an amazing podcast. It includes tips from all different parts of the process, and you can also hear from some of our creators. And if you do want to make a podcast, you can get started straight away on Acast for free, little plug there. But also if you want to try one of our paid plans for free, we also have an offer code, which I'll send out in an email after this. Follow our socials too, as we have loads of useful info and tips on podcasting there. And to end, I just want to highlight a quote from former Acaster Susie Warhurst. So she said, a female podcast host once described the following, which really stuck with me. Podcasting is a liberating space because you can create your own format, launch your own IP, and build your own community, all without asking for permission. That's special. And I totally agree. For women who ask for permission all the time and we have to fit into so many different boxes on a daily basis, it's really meaningful to be able to create your own space and show our multifaceted selves. So on that, thank you everyone, and have a lovely International Women's Week.